to order the regular GCC board meeting, 11/15/2022, a little about 4:49 p.m. Welcome, everyone. Thank you. At this point, I will do roll call. Mr. Mark Anderson.
Here.
Mr. Harry Block.
Here.
Mr. Bruce Mandrick.
Present.
Mr. Jack Turner.
Present.
And Lily Campbell, present. All board members present and accounted. And now we will have the SB 361 board resolution. And just briefly, it is to ascertain that we are following the board, the Brown Act, as we have our virtual board meetings. So I will entertain a motion for SB 361 board resolution. May I have a motion, please? Mr. Anderson?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Mandrick, Bruce, okay. Roll call, Mark Anderson,
Yes.
Harry Block,
Yes.
Bruce Mandrick,
Yes.
Jack Turner,
Yes.
Lily Campbell, yes. The board resolution for SB 361 passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And now we want to welcome everyone with us, all of the cabinet members, our superintendent, our deputy superintendent, our executive directors. Thank you so much for being here, Ms. Melissa DeMarco. We're so glad to see everyone. And we thank those of you who are with us virtually. We will continue now with our regular board meeting, and thank you all. Do we have public comments, Mr. Sample?
Madam President, no public comments have
No
came in.
public comments. Thank you very much. And now we will move into item 4, one that we wait very patiently for and listen to all the good things. Dr. Peterson's superintendent's update. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam President, and thank you again to all of our people that you can see on the screen who are attending, of course, part of our cabinet and staff and board, but also thank you to those of you that may be watching on YouTube and our many fine administrators who I'm sure are tracking the great governance of our board. Just a few things to bring to your attention. Today, Cabinet completed right before the board meeting a 3-day conference with Eric Premack and the Charter School Development Center. A lot of learning. Our brains are full, our minds are full of finance and legal and HR and renewals, and definitely want to affirm Deputy Superintendent Sample, who was part of a WASC presentation as well as part of a presentation about how to run for a school board. So we represented well, and actually we had a cabinet meeting on site during lunch. So we are multitaskers. We also saw this week that all of our site administrators received their statewide data and began diving into the slicing, dicing, and understanding of their statewide CASP data. The state and the nation, as well as our schools, are seeing some significant impacts, as you would imagine, from COVID and learning loss mitigation issues. Our schools have some areas of challenge. We're going to hear a little bit more about that, but we do feel that we are situated in the same space as the districts and the states around us are in terms of seeing the many outcomes of COVID. Last week, Higher Learning Academy hosted a comprehensive WASC visit. We want to give kudos and affirmations to all of the Higher Learning Academy staff. They all went above and beyond and created a positive experience for the committee as well as for their own staff. I want to thank President Lily Campbell, who participated with me in a Zoom visit with the board chair, WASC chair. And we're looking forward to hearing what those outcomes are, but we believe they are positive. Also, Deputy Superintendent Sample and I met with Twin Rivers for a capacity and informational build meeting that will lead into our charter oversight annual visit that's coming up in early December. We're looking forward to it. We have a very positive working relationship with our Twin Rivers district. On Tuesday of last week, feels like about a year ago, but it was Tuesday of last week, we were at the Yolo County Office of Education for the EPIC annual board report. And we definitely want to give a shout out to everyone. Jason Sample was the point for that, but Heather, Omira, and of course our EPIC principal, Jerry Kosh, all presented to the board various aspects of the EPIC's work. Sergey also was able to contribute in relation to our community and our community engagement work. And Maury Elliott and I were cheerleaders in the audience. So definitely very proud of that team. Also, Jason and I attended the AXA Leadership Summit earlier this month since we saw you, and the Superintendent's Council met for a full day before, and we heard a lot of financial and economic indicator information about our state budget and where we're headed from VCMAT Executive Director Michael Fine. So keeping ourselves on the edge of understanding what's coming. Crucial Conversations continues to progress. We are in week 6 of the current cohort. Jason Sample is providing some of those with me this year. He's going to cover this week since I am traveling at the time of that one. And we have a great team of people who are learning about how to communicate and master their stories. So always a lot of fun in that. This last week, we also hosted a meeting of the McClellan Business Park Business Watch. Local officials, district attorney, CHP, transportation, county sheriff, Air Force, and others met at our location to discuss solutions to the homeless issue. And certainly I want to affirm the Community Engagement Department and specifically Director Terepkoff for the coordination of that event. I really want to reach out and affirm our payroll and human resources and business services team. As you know, at our last board meeting, you approved doubling our one-time stipend of 3%. And so we are working really hard to get that first 1.5% out before people's winter holiday, so to speak. And so it has created a little bit of extra work on payroll, HR, and business services, as well as getting to some clarity about who gets how much based on what amount of income, et cetera. So really want to appreciate everyone who is going above and beyond to be sure that our employees get that recognition prior to leaving for winter holiday. I want to remind you that the GCC offices and schools are all closed next week in observance of the Thanksgiving holiday. There'll be a few business service staff who I believe have to work a few days here and there, but primarily we are closed. Offices closed, schools are closed all of next week, and we want to be sure that everybody enjoys their holiday. Finally, I want to say that I am so proud that the board and cabinet are looking at our next meeting in December 13th, being our first back in-person meeting. And so we know that the board has done a great job of governance with a high level of transparency and authenticity in the Zoom setting. But we are looking forward to beginning our board governance again in person at our December 13th board meeting. And with that, Madam President, that is the superintendent's update.
Thank you so very, very much. Any comments or questions or affirmation from the board members? Anything? Well, again, I want to affirm you for all of the work that you're doing. Mr. Block, did I see your hand?
Yes, ma'am. I just want to apologize for missing that WASP meeting because I had my days all mixed up. So I had the wrong date. Again.
Well, it is okay. We needed one board member for sure. 2 would have been nice, but 1 for sure, and Lily represented. So don't you worry, Director Block. We were fine.
Thank you.
Yes, it was a good meeting, and I think we accomplished quite a bit with our report to the WASC chair about HLA. So it turned out to be very good. Thank you. And thank you again, Dr. Peterson, for all of your hard work, both you and cabinet members who are about the business of GCC. We want to thank you. So with that, we are now moving into our study session, statewide release of assessment data. And that is Ms. Joy. Would you like to bring her in?
Yes, I would definitely like to affirm this is one of the, if not the first, significant presentation of Ms. Joy in her new role this year as Director of Academics. And she has stepped into that role with power and authority, and been giving all of our sites a great deal of support. And I want to affirm her for that and recognize her for that. And looking forward to hearing today her presentation to you on our state level results that came out. So yeah, Miss Joy. So Miss Joy, the
Miss
floor
Joy.
is yours, even if you are in the dark. The
Yeah,
floor is yours.
exactly. I'll try and get him to come back on. Well, I'm at GIS today, so I'm presenting from GIS. So
Oh, okay.
I'm covering for Ms. Deep Dillon. And so I'm presenting from here. So I hope it's okay. Can you see me?
Yes.
Not
No.
yet. No.
No, there. All right.
Can
Now
hear
they're
you.
back on. So thank you so much, Dr. Peterson and GCC board and cabinet. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to present and share with you today. It's been my pleasure to serve as Director of Academics. It's been a great learning opportunity for me. And I just want to thank these people for their support in this role. So I'm going to do my best to share with you a story. As Dr. Peterson said, we're learning how to tell our story. I'm going to try to tell this story of data and numbers in a way that is interesting for you. But it's my pleasure to present to you the results for the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress from the spring of 2022. First, I'd like to provide some context regarding, as Dr. Peterson said, student test results nationally and statewide. It's important for us to understand and know common trends when looking at how our sites are doing. Nationally, student scores fell in both ELA and math. It was the largest decline in math since 1990. And the fourth grade reading scores declined all the way back to 2005. Statewide scores saw similar results, with students dropping 4 percentage points in ELA and 6 points in math. Both Sacramento and Yolo counties saw a similar decline, as did all of our authorizing districts, with Twin Rivers having the greatest learning loss in Sacramento County. The COVID-19 pandemic brought about measurable learning loss from students across the country. On each slide tonight, you will see results from 2019, which was the last year we had results prior to COVID. Then you will see the 2022 results and a column titled Change, meaning it is the change in results from those 2 testing years. Looking at our GCC schools, we did experience the same challenges that all schools face nationwide. Each GCC school has looked at their data closely and determined strategies to help them increase student achievement. So we'll start tonight looking at Community Collaborative Charter School. They are a DOS school, or a dashboard alternative school, meaning they serve a high needs population, and their scores do not formally report to the California dashboard. They have 20% proficient in English language arts and over 7% proficient in math. Actually, their data makes my heart happy because their numbers show growth in both ELA and in math, including their significant subgroup of economically disadvantaged students. They also outscored similar DOS schools in the area. And we use this similar schools comparison because it relates to our charter renewal criteria. And so CCCS attributes this success, their growth in test scores, to small group intervention for middle school and their work related to the early literacy block grant that Dr. Gold has supported them with. Moving forward, Mr. Campbell plans to continue those strategies and add additional supports from iReady for reading and math, as well as utilizing new reading intervention tools. And next we have Community Outreach Academy, who scored 40% proficient in English language arts and 28% in math. Their English learners grew in ELA by 2.5%, and they outperformed the Twin Rivers district and similar schools in both ELA and math. They did also experience similar learning loss as we saw in the national and statewide results. They recognize this, they own it, and they attribute some of this to having a large influx of refugee students. These new refugees affected the scores of all of our schools that have a high English learner population. Newcomers are exempt from the English portion of the test, but they are not exempt from the math portion. So they've been in the United States less than a year. They do not have to take the English, but even if they've only been enrolled in a US school for a month, they still have to take that math portion. But this math test requires a lot of English and writing skills, which these newcomers lack. It's not simply solving for answers. COA also had a high degree of quarantined students and staff from last year. And in terms of improvement, Mrs. Gonchar is committed to providing support for these newcomers. And they added a full-time English language development coach this year. And they continue to train their teachers and strategies to support these students. For Empowering Possibilities International Charter School, they have 36% of students proficient in ELA, 33% in math. They saw minimal decline in math. And if you take the newcomers out of the equation, EPIC would have had a significantly improved math score. Their English learners grew in ELA, and EPIC surpassed a similar school in ELA. EPIC also had a large influx of refugee students with many quarantined classes last year, which equals to lost instructional time. This year, they adopted a new math curriculum, and Dr. Kosh is committed to continued implementation of math instructional strategies that engage all students. EPIC is doing an amazing job with a math professional development called Building Thinking Classrooms, and they are a model school for that. Futures High School scored close to 40% proficient in English language arts and 15% in math. Futures surpassed the Twin Rivers district average for ELA, and their English learners grew in math. In comparison to surrounding schools, Futures surpassed both in ELA and math. Futures faced a high staff turnover last year and had no permanent teacher for English. Moving forward, Principal Lovano is implementing a new English curriculum, and they are implementing interim CAS practice tests for students. They are also doing coaching cycles with their math department. Gateway International School scored over 51% proficient in ELA and 34% in math. They surpassed the state average in both and the district average in both. Notable for GIS is their growth for students with disabilities in ELA. They grew 5%. And this group, students with disabilities, they now score more than double the state average for their same group. GIS did decline in math, and they attribute that to not having a permanent math teacher for the entire year last year for middle school. Ms. Dillon is focusing on implementing the new math curriculum and providing structured intervention for middle school math. GIS will also use the CASP interim assessments for math practice. Next up is Higher Learning Academy. And they scored over 21% proficient in ELA and 8% in math. They outperformed similar schools in English language arts and had less of a decline than the district in math. Then there's similar schools as well. Historically, their scores are above the pre-COVID levels from 2018. HLA faced significant staffing shortages last year with vacant positions and long-term subs for the entire year. It was also a challenge for them to engage students and families while they were out due to quarantine. Mr. Coonan is supporting increased math achievement by adopting a new math curriculum this year and providing math instructional coaching for teachers. They also have a focus on improving student reading levels, and they're partnering with parents and Futures High School students as mentors. And next, we're moving on to SAVA, and we have 3 slides for them. One per authorized program. So we're starting with Twin Rivers. SAVA is also a DOS alternative school due to their student population. And this site Twin Rivers, they grew in the number of students nearly meeting the standard in both ELA and math. They scored 13% proficient, and we are working on getting these students scoring proficient in math. So they increased 13% in students nearly meeting standard for ELA, and they increased in 5% of math for students nearly meeting standard. So Sava sites definitely struggled with getting students to come to site in person for instructional support during the pandemic, but Principals Summer and Ashley are keen to identify those students who are so close to meeting standard and supporting them with targeted in-person instruction. And they're also using our iReady math intervention. For Sava Elk Grove, these students scored 32% proficient in ELA and 3% in math. This site had positive growth in ELA, and their economically disadvantaged students grew 11 points, which is very exciting. They scored better than similar schools, and they reduced their distance from standard significantly. Summer and Ashley are also increasing in-person instructional offerings for this site for 10th and 11th grade students to target math and using the interim CAS practice test. And lastly, we have Sava Sac City. This site saw positive growth in ELA and math, and their disadvantaged students scored higher than the whole school for ELA. Their students with disabilities also grew in ELA and math. In addition to the supports for Elk Grove and Twin Rivers, this site is also working to provide additional support for English learners. And so GCC recognized that there's room for growth in our CAS testing. And I want to share with you here what is GCC doing to support academics across our sites. So we are supporting implementation of standards aligned math curriculum with Fidelity. We're providing tools to assess students on these same standards, as well as build the capacity of administrators and teachers to read and understand their data for the purpose of improving instruction. We're also providing professional development and coaching to build the capacity of sites to engage students in this post-pandemic environment and helping sites to create systems of intervention to support students. We've scheduled data discussions with each site, with myself and Deputy Sample and the site administrators, where we will discuss their data, their strategies, and ongoing monitoring. Administrators are also being asked to create a presentation or a data wall to present to the entire GCC admin team to share best practices and strategies with everyone across sites. So with that, that is our GCC data. Do you have any questions about our CASP results?
Jack, thank you.
Yes, I really want to thank you on the formatting of the statistics. It was impressive because there was a lot of information there, and it really came across very, very clearly. Just speaking empirically, and I've raised this a couple of times earlier in meetings, my 5 grandkids that are still going to in public school, the learning loss has just been devastating. And I truly think we'll be discussing this again and again and again, for years, because of trying to help these students catch up. It's a national tragedy, and I think we're going to have to put resources into it. And I think, just long-term planning. But anyway, really thank you for the data.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anyone else? And I want to agree with Jack. The information was very easy to understand. We could see it, and we could see where the losses were and the differences in the state and the county. And as Jack stated, this is a national problem. It's not just GCC, it's all over. If you listen to the news, you listen to the education reports, you read about it, we know that we are not by ourselves. It's just, it happened. And we're going to be working with this for a while. But we appreciate the fact that you got plans designed to improve the math, to improve the English language learners. So we'll just continue to look for that as it happens. And thank you for your dedication and commitment.
Thank you. I think it's important that the administrators also recognize they're not in this alone.
Yeah.
That they're in a similar boat that every other school and every other district is in. And kind of the motto and the place where we're coming from is from a growth mindset, that where you are is an okay place to be, but it's not an okay place to stay.
To stay.
We have to keep
Exactly.
moving forward.
Yeah. And we know that math has been a problem. And so we see that we're still looking at what we can do to improve that. But we recognize that it has been a problem. So anyone else? Any other comments? We do thank you so much for your hard work and welcome. You did very well on your first presentation as Director of Academics. We appreciate you and thank you very, very much. All right. If there are no other comments on this issue, we shall continue on. Consent agenda items, board members. There are 4. Adoption of the GCC board meeting minutes of 11/1/22. Personnel consent agenda items. Purchases over 30,000. And the last one, fuel offset stipend extension. So those are the 4 areas under consent agenda items. And I will entertain a motion. Yes, Mr. Turner,
I move approval.
move approval. I will need a second.
Second,
Who is that?
Harry.
Harry. Thank you, Harry. Second. All right. Any discussion? Any discussion on any of the items? Hearing none and seeing none, roll call. Mark Anderson,
Yes.
Harry Block,
Yes.
Bruce Mandrick,
Yes.
Jack Turner,
Yes.
and Lily Campbell. The consent agenda items have been approved unanimously. Thank you so much, board members. All right, we are now moving to board comments. We are there already. Any board comments? Come on, board members. Anything? Mr. Harry, you mentioned you did not make it for the WASC, and I talked about that, so we did. And for the board members who were not present, Ms. Melissa is asking that you give her some dates for the March retreat. So please contact Ms. Melissa to talk about dates, possible dates in March. Anything else? My goodness. Seeing no hands, hearing none. Well, thank you, directors. Thank you, cabinet. Thank all of you for being here. Anything, Mr. Sample?
No, Madam President.
Anything, Dr. Peterson?
I think Mr. Mandrick has a comment.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I didn't see your hand.
Looking
Mr.
at the next board meeting, it seems to me I saw somewhere we were starting at 4.
No.
We're having a pre-meeting with administrators, kind of a mingle time. Is that 4 o'clock, Miss Melissa?
It is 4:15.
So at 4:15 in the teachers training room, we've invited each of you and the site administrators and cabinet for a little holiday mingle. Since you have not face-to-face seen all the administrators in a while, we thought it'd be good to get reacquainted. And then we'll go into the board meeting at the usual time and start it at 4:45 as we generally do. Following the board meeting, the board will retire to the Lionsgate Officers Club for a holiday dinner. not no
Oh.
host, but all of us getting our relationships back together and celebrating our holiday together. That's the plan, as I understand it. Miss Melissa, that's the plan. Yes. So
Looking forward to that very much so. Our December the 13th meeting where we will meet and greet each other in person. What a day it will be. Thank you. Anything else for the good of the organization? Seeing none, hearing none, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
So move, Mr. Mandrick, for adjournment. Second, Mark,
Second.
second. All right, no discussion. All in favor, the voting sign of
Aye.
aye.